So, if you're paying attention to any of the news happening in the gaming industry as of late, you might be coming slowly to the same conclusion that I am also coming to, and that is the fact that AAA gaming seems to be absolutely cooked right now. So, let's talk about it. And I want to be clear before I get started what I mean when I say that AAA gaming seems to be cooked right now. I don't mean that we're not getting great AAA games. That's not what I mean at all. I mean, you look at just last year. Last year was one of the best years we've had in gaming in terms of just the games that were provided to us. That was one of the best years in gaming history. And hell, I mean, you could make the same exact case for this year. I mean, we don't know, right? I mean, we're not at the end of this year. But things that should be coming out this year look really, really promising. I mean, Microsoft with Hellblade, we're getting Indiana Jones, Avowed. I mean, there's probably some more stuff in there that we're getting that we don't know about. Obviously, Sony's just released, Square Enix just released Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I mean, on top of that, Dragon's Dogma 2 is next month. Avowed. It's my most anticipated game of the year. But my most anticipated game of the year that isn't from PlayStation or Xbox is Dragon's Dogma 2. I cannot wait to play that game. Elden Ring's getting new DLC. I mean, there's a ton of stuff happening this year in AAA gaming that's going to be awesome. So when I talk about, AAA gaming is cooked, I don't mean in that sense. What I mean is, look at the news lately, guys. I mean, it didn't start with, but Microsoft a few weeks ago laying off like 2,000 employees, like 1,900 employees. That's a lot of employees. Look at just a few days ago, as I'm recording this, Sony laying off about 900 employees. It's a lot of employees. Look at just yesterday as I'm recording this, literally yesterday as I'm sitting here right now, EA lays off 670 employees. And this is just three examples. I mean, this is just three recent examples, but this has been happening for what seems like forever, but really, really, especially in the past year and a half, 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. This has been a horrible trend in the games industry. And this is why I say AAA gaming is cooked, not because we're not going to get great things from it ever again. It's just the fact that it seems so unbelievably unsustainable. And I don't know. I mean, listen, I don't know anything about business. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you guys. I don't know why that is the case. All I know is thousands of people are being laid off seemingly every month. Meanwhile, CEOs and executives feels like they're doing just fine. It feels like they're doing just fine. You never see, really, outside of Nintendo, you never see a news story about CEOs and executives taking pay cuts to keep people on board. You never really see that. That doesn't happen often. That's super rare. And it seems like right now that's something that's needed more than ever. I mean, when I think of the games industry and the people who make my games, I don't think of the CEO. Like, the reason I loved, for example, Skyrim, my favorite game of all time. I love that game more than pretty much most entertainment, quite honestly. That's my favorite game of all time. The reason I love that game so much isn't because of whoever the CEO was of Bethesda at the time, or ZeniMax. And it's no shade to the guy. I don't know the guy. But it's because of Todd Howard and the team working on the game. Like, the actual team. Boots on the ground, working on the game. Animating, directing, voicing. Like, it's all of that stuff that makes that game and all other games special. But for some reason, the industry that I love seems to think that all of those people are the most expendable. And hey, here's the thing. They seem to be right because they're forcibly making them the most expendable. Whether they are or not, they are forcibly making that the case. I mean, it's crazy. I follow developers on Twitter who were developers on some of my favorite games who now are out of jobs. Like, talented people who worked on some of the best games I've ever played, just now out of jobs. And that's super disheartening. And I'm not making this video because I know what to do about it. I absolutely fucking don't. I'm making this video because I think what's going to happen, I believe in my core, what's going to happen is AA gaming is going to be carrying the industry for a while, it seems. I mean, look at what's going on with AAA game. It seems so wildly unsustainable. I mean, let's look at a more recent example like Spider-Man 2. Rumored to cost about $315 million versus Spider-Man 1 from the exact same studio just a few years earlier, rumored to cost about $90 million. And listen, Spider-Man 1, fucking phenomenal. Spider-Man 2, I really, really loved it. Both games are great, but there's nothing in Spider-Man 2 that makes me go, oh, I can see why this costs triple the amount that the first one did. There's nothing there that makes me think that, even remotely. The cost is just becoming too unsustainable for many publishers, even these huge ones. I mean, you look at what Microsoft is doing. They're saying, hey, we're going to start putting some of our games on not just PlayStation, but Nintendo also. And then you look at PlayStation, just in the last 30 days, PlayStation has said like 3 different times in 3 separate ways, just selling our game on PlayStation isn't enough. They've said this like 3 times in the last 30 days, probably less. I mean, it might be a while before this balances itself out. And while this is balancing itself out, like I said, I feel like AA gaming is going to have a huge spotlight on it. I mean, there's a lot of games this year that I'm really looking forward to, that I wouldn't necessarily call AAA. It's not that they're indie, because there's a lot of games this year that I'm looking forward to that aren't indie. Like, tons of them. I think of a game like No Rest for the Wicked from Moon Studios. Like, that's not this big AAA production. It's from a smaller studio, the guys and girls that made Ori 1 and 2 over on Xbox. Phenomenal games. You should definitely check them out, by the way. But No Rest for the Wicked looks amazing. You look at Zao. That game looks awesome. I beat the demo on Steam. I cannot wait to play that game. You look at a game like Space Marine 2. Not this huge AAA, massive budget game, but just a fun co-op experience. You look at a game like Helldivers 2 that's out now. Not a massive AAA production. Just a fun game with a focus entirely on fun. That's phenomenal. Games like that, I think, are going to be carrying things for the next few years while things even itself out. I mean, there's even been games being canceled. I mean, we just heard yesterday that EA canceled the Star Wars FPS game from Respawn, or what we assume would be a Mandalorian FPS game from Respawn. That's canceled. I mean, there's games being canceled, there's studios being shut down. You look at London's studio over at PlayStation, completely shut down now. They're letting a ton of people go from Firesprite Studios. Like, Insomniac even had layoffs. Like, if this is hitting Insomniac over at PlayStation, then I don't feel like anyone's safe. Because Insomniac's the only studio at PlayStation who's been consistently outputting quality shit. So if it's hitting them too, then it's like, what hope does anybody have, really? And no shit, I just looked over at my second monitor here, and Saber Interactive, the people who are making Space Marine 2, which I mentioned earlier in this video, Saber Interactive is leaving Embracer Group in a $500 million deal that will see it and its 3,500 developers go private. An independent studio now. They're buying their way. They're buying their independence. And, you know, hats off to them. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. I mean, especially at Embracer. My God, you see what's going on over at Embracer? Basically, the world is ending over at Embracer. Or at least it seems like it is every other week. And there's even more news because looking over here again, and this is literally 2 minutes ago, Shinobi posts, Toys for Bob is splitting from Microsoft and Activision and going independent. And that, I mean, that's great for this channel because this is an Xbox-centric channel. That directly correlates to Microsoft and Xbox and the recent ABK acquisition. Toys for Bob is just out of there. And it does say the studio is currently in talks to pursue a partnership with Microsoft. Now we'll see how that all pans out, but they're another studio buying their independence right now. I mean, hats off to them. Hats off to them, and hopefully it works out for them. And I don't blame them, quite frankly, because again, it's big corporations right now seem to be the worst place to be. It's unfortunate, but I mean, hats off to them. I hope everything works out for them. And hopefully, hey, hopefully maybe they can get a partnership going with Microsoft where it's like, hey, you don't own us, but we'll happily work with you. We'll give you some games here and there. You can help fund us. Hopefully that stuff works out for them. But it's wild. It's absolutely wild right now. But let me know what you guys think. Leave it in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the latest news I just gave you right there? I mean, Toys for Bob splitting from Activision and Microsoft. Obviously, Saber Interactive buying their independence. I feel like that's a trend that we might see a little bit more going forward, especially from the Embracer Group side of things. I mean, of all the massive corporations that people seemingly absolutely don't want to be working for, I think Embracer Group takes the cake on that one. So I feel like this is something we could see more going into the future, but let me know in the comments how you feel about all that. Leave a like if you like the video, and if you're enjoying this kind of content and you want to stay up to date with it going forward over here on the channel, the best way to do that is consider subscribing. Consider ringing that notification bell because that helps you stay up to date with everything that's going on over here on the channel. And it helps promote me in the algorithm, helps push the videos out to way more people. And I always, always, always appreciate that. We are almost at my first milestone for some form of monetization. And what I mean by that is I'm coming very close to my 3,000 watch hours in the last, I think it's 365 days you need, 3,000 watch hours. I'm coming close to that 3,000 watch hours, and what that means is when I do live streams, I'll be able to do super chats and everything, and then obviously on top of that, we're working towards the 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, hoping that I can get there, and that's not possible without all of you guys, so I really do appreciate that, like I always say. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.